What is up, guys? Rick Kakis here, and today I wanted to take some time to talk about, well, for me, the highlight of E3 2017 so far, which is the newly unveiled game from BioWare, Anthem. This game looks fantastic, and as a Destiny fan, I am so excited. Now, firstly, I want to make it clear, this is BioWare Edmonton, the people who made Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3, the OG BioWare, not BioWare Montreal that made Mass Effect Andromeda. So if you're worried about that, you shouldn't be. This is the good BioWare. And this is their entirely new IP. They've been working on this game for a very long time because there's rumors of a new IP. As soon as they finished Mass Effect 3, they said, we're done with Mass Effect, we're moving on to a new IP. So they've been working on this for years and years and years, and finally today, it was unveiled. Well, we actually got a trailer yesterday, but I'm really liking how games are being announced these days. It seems like we get gameplay of a new title so quickly. I remember back in the day, it used to be like a text announcement and then a CGI trailer and then eventually a gameplay trailer, and that wasn't even reminiscent of actual gameplay. Like, it just took forever before we got a good representation of the game. Nowadays, you know, things are announced and the gameplay comes out pretty close together, which I think is a good thing. But again, I wanted to talk about it because I am a Destiny fan, and I assume most of you guys watching, because this is a Destiny channel, are also Destiny fans. And so that's why Anthem is a big deal. This is another loot-based futuristic shooter on the market, and it looks so great. This game really seems to focus on the open world aspect, potentially more than the MMO aspect. We didn't really see a lot of player-to-player interactions within the game world during the gameplay premiere, but rather we saw players be able to explore what looked like this massive open world area, maybe reminiscent more of something like Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Wildlands, where you just have this massive open area that you can go wherever in. This seems like the futuristic version of that. We also see some new innovations from how your character is kind of built. I'm not quite sure if there's classes a la Destiny where you can select a certain class, but rather it seems like in Anthem, you select a different suit. And these suits have abilities, like you have these powerful robotic suits that have different abilities. We saw, a guy slam the ground like the Titan Fist of Havoc. We also saw the ability to equip loot on these different robotic platforms, essentially. We had a guy with a mortar pod absolutely devastate an area. We had another guy just go off with a salvo of missiles. This is really cool. Potentially, this is kind of their way of doing, a Destiny super, right? Having these different massively powerful weapons that you can equip to your robot and giving it these crazy abilities. But of course, you don't have a class system, so whatever loot you want to equip, you can customize your guy however you like. That's pretty sweet, and that leads to a lot more customization than the rigid class system of Destiny per se. Now, I want to make it clear though, I'm comparing to Destiny out of love. I am not making this video to say, holy crap, look at this Anthem game, it's so much better than Destiny, or Destiny players should be worried, or anything like that. I'm making this video to say, if you're a Destiny fan, if you like those futuristic looter shooters, there's another freaking game coming out for you. This is so awesome. Guys, we all can admit, even if you are the most hardcore Destiny fanboy, that Destiny has its times of lull. It has its boring periods where you don't have content, and at those times, there's nothing wrong with playing something else. In fact, it's almost healthy for Destiny if you can go and play something else in between content additions and then come back and play Destiny when it's getting injected with new content, or there's special things going on like the Iron Banner or something like that. That, again, helps Destiny. If you're playing Destiny and not having fun, that's not the best, for your perspective on the game. So having two games now that, again, the comparability of these two games is very high. They're both very similar in the aspects of their internal design, in the sense that, at its core, futuristic loot-based shooter, right? Both games have that covered. Now, of course, they're going to be pretty different, I'm sure, playing each other. Like, you're flying around in Anthem. Like, what even is that? Like, you're Iron Manning around. Like, that is not in Destiny. Not even close. But it's going to be so nice to have another looter shooter on the market just to play, again, in place of Destiny. So this is really, really cool. In fact, its loot aspects were even accentuated within the gameplay trailer. We saw a part within the trailer of a player picking up a piece of loot, what looked like a legendary piece of loot, and they even had the voiceovers going on at the time where the player was like, oh, I hope this is good. It's almost like decrypting an engram, like, oh, please be the thing I needed. And then they got, of course, they got the good piece of loot and they're all excited, which of course is not reminiscent of the actual game where they're gonna get the loot and be like, I already have 3 of these. I'm fucking sick of this loot, you know? But it was really cool to see, yep, they're emphasizing loot. And the guy who had the mortar that I mentioned earlier, the mortar that he equipped to his robot, he was saying, yeah, I got this over the weekend. So there seems like to be a hardcore loot aspect that they are pounding home from the very beginning. They made clear emphasis of this loot-based system within their gameplay premiere. And they wouldn't have done that if it wasn't an integral part of the game. Now, another very interesting thing about Anthem is that, and this hasn't been officially announced whether or not it has a PvP aspect of the game, but just from appearance's sake, it looks like a game more closely developed around its PvE aspect. And here's what I mean by that. Firstly, it's a third-person shooter. You generally don't have that massively competitive nature with third-person shooters. Like, first-person shooters end up being those very competitive, like, Twitch shooters that you end up with. And Destiny had that. And I think one of Destiny's strengths is that it has PvP and PvE, and it keeps 2 very different types of players happy. Like, the people who are sweating it up on PvP are very different than the people grinding strikes in PvE. And is keeping both of those very diverse groups of people happy in the same game. Now, don't get me wrong, it does cause some problems, right? You know, nerfs made for PvP reasons weren't offset in PvE. It's always been a point of contention in Destiny. But with Anthem, if they truly are just focusing mainly on PvE, that's very exciting. That's very exciting. A loot-based game that doesn't have a huge PvP aspect or even no PvP at all, that means that the loot can be phenomenal. You can have extremely powerful, frankly overpowered loot, but because you're not versing other players, it doesn't matter. We end up with a more Borderlands style loot system, right? I'm sure some of you guys watching, I'm sure a lot of you guys watching have played Borderlands, where they just go bananas with the loot system. You have pieces of loot that are so much more powerful than other pieces of loot, and that means that you just have that aspect to try to go out and earn that super powerful loot. The double penetrating Unkept Herald is so much better than a lot of the other legendaries in the game. They don't have to worry about balance per se. They can just make things absolutely incredible depending on their rarity, which is great from a PvE point of view. You earn fantastic loot when you beat the endgame content, and you basically never have to worry about it being nerfed. Now again, it could have a PvP aspect, but it doesn't seem to be relying on it or pushing it per se. And now guys, let's move into some of the specifics that I'm sure a lot of you guys are wondering. So even though Anthem was unveiled at the Xbox conference, it is not an Xbox exclusive. It's coming out on the Xbox and the PlayStation 4 and the PC, at least that's what we've heard so far. The release date is stated on the official Anthem Twitter as Fall 2018. So this game will not interfere with Destiny 2 whatsoever, pretty much. Although I'm sure there will be a Destiny 2 expansion coming out around fall 2018 at that time. We've had a lot of Destiny fall expansions, and it's something that Bungie is likely to continue. However, you know, if it's coming out at that time, fall 2018, and we can expect, you know, at least 2 years between Destiny 2 and Destiny 3. They're not going to be coming out with a Destiny game every year. I will be shocked if that happens. That's kind of the perfect launch window for Anthem. You're launching at a time when Destiny is already a year old. They're potentially doing, some holiday sparrow racing event or something of that nature, and it's a great time to go and play something else. Again, that's not a negative thing for Destiny. That's just players getting to experiment with a different game. You can like Anthem more than Destiny, but still come back and play Destiny. Like, there isn't this huge competition that everyone imagines. It's just having time to play two different games and enjoying two different games, and there's nothing wrong with that. And so guys, hope you enjoyed this discussion about Anthem. It's absolutely a game I'm going to get and cover on this channel if it's anything like what we saw in the gameplay reveal today. So if you guys want to see more Anthem content in the future, remember to slap that subscribe button. Now if you guys want to get in touch with me, be sure to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That's linked in the description down below, as is my Twitch channel, which you can also follow. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.